Good morning, everyone. My apologies for the delay. This is the Public Improvement Commission hearing of May 9th, 2019. Our first item are the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on April 25th, 2019. Any questions or comments on the minutes? No. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve the acceptance of minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to the utility pole hearing on a petition by Verizon New England Inc. to relocate one utility pole within public alley number 432 in Roxbury to be located on its northwesterly side at the rear of 262 Commonwealth Avenue, generally between Fairfield Street and Gloucester Street.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sherry Story here on behalf of Verizon. The abutters were notified at the commission's request. We additionally notified 5 direct abutters by certified mail. I don't believe we had any response or any inquiries from any of the abutters. The pole is that we're being asked to move the pole 45 feet from its current location. The owners of the property at 260 and 262 Commonwealth Avenue have constructed an addition on the rear of the dwellings, and that was the reason for the request to move the pole.
Got it. So I apologize. It's currently basically on the line between 258 and 260. It's
That's
being
correct.
moved to being behind 262.
That's correct.
And you've notified the folks at 262?
Yes, 262, and, well, 262 is one of the owners requesting the movement. It's 266 and 264, that the pole will be moved to the property line between 262 and 264. And they were notified by mail and certified mail.
And we have not heard back from them.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's no encroachment on those driveways for those folks.
That's correct.
Apologies. When did you notify the folks at 264 2-266?
We sent certified letters on April. We sent them April 9th, and they were delivered on April 11th at that location.
Okay. Does
April
that
11th.
conform with our standard policy for
Yeah,
notification?
we just need proof that the actual impacted party
Was notified.
has been notified.
All right. Other questions or comments on this? All right. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve the petition by Verizon New England Inc. to relocate one utility pole within public alley number 432, as read into the record by the chair.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved.
Thank
Thanks
you.
much, Sherry. Moving on to our public hearing. Our first item is on a petition by Crown Castle Fiber for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication conduit with city shadow and electrical infrastructure within the following public ways in East Boston. Chelsea Street, generally at Brook Street. Brook Street, Brook Street between Chelsea Street and Morris Street. Morris Street, southwest of Chelsea Street. Porter Street, generally between Cottage Street and Lubeck Street. Cottage Street, southwest of Porter Street. This was new business on April 25th, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, Crown Castle Fiber, Morris Street, Brook Street, Chelsea Street, Porter Street, Cottage Street, 3 sheets dated April 2019.
Morning, Commissioners. Mike Puccini, UC Synergetic.
Matt Gerard with Crown Castle Fiber.
Petitioning for grant of location to install conduit on Morris Street, Brook Street, Chelsea Street, Porter Street, and Carter Street in East Boston. On our first meeting, a question came up about having electric in the manholes, and I sent out the notification to everybody that, the approval from Eversource.
I appreciate that. I also followed up with them, and thank you for following through with that.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And another issue was handholds in the street.
Yep.
So at Brook Street and Chelsea Street, we have a handhole there. We're going to need to keep that one for a pole, and we couldn't really move it in any way. We're starting up there on Morris Street, coming down the poles. There's 90 at the pole, then another 90, then another 90, and
At Chelsea.
but yeah.
And given sort of locations of essentially out front of an Apex crosswalk, how do we normally, is there anything we can do from just from an accessibility and pedestrian? No.
It's going to be a exhibit of the future.
The crosswalk issue, I've got an email from Amy, from Sarah,
Okay,
saying it's
okay. You're okay with it?
Yeah, ideally, we don't want it right in the ramp, but
okay. And the handhold, we were able to move the other one. On Cottage Street and Porter, yeah. So that was out in the street, and we bumped it up onto the sidewalk.
Thank you. Did we have a micro trench versus conventional dig question as well? Or am I?
Yeah, that's on Porter Street also. So that's, we weren't able to, well, you want to take that one, Matt?
Yeah. Looking at the overall network, I think we could turn this into a micro trench to satisfy the city.
On Porter, at Porter and Cottage?
On Porter all the way to, there's a section where it'll have to be conventional down Cottage Street from the electric manhole to the light pole handhole. So that'll have to be conventional for power. The micro trench can run right alongside it.
Presumably that's preferable. Okay.
Yeah, it's a much shorter run and everything else is a micro trench. It's a good resolution.
Now, would that have to go back to Boston Water and Sewer? We're following the same path, but we're not, you know,
microtrench should probably be beneficial from your
yeah,
standpoint as well.
less intrusive.
As far as I know, it doesn't. I do have the utility plan number that it was approved a
Yeah.
while back, but that's something I will have to check on
Okay,
and get back to you.
okay,
Yeah.
alrighty. I think that covers everything.
Appreciate Matt, your work on that. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item, again, with the idea that on Porter Street, we're converting to a micro trench for the extent that it is possible, and final sign off from Boston Water and Sewer on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Crown Castle Fiber for the grant of location and lead company status and note participants to install new telecommunication conduit and city shadow electrical infrastructure within the following public ways in East Boston, as read into the record by the chair and as shown on the set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Grant of Location Plan, Crown Castle Fiber, Morris Street, Wood Street, Chelsea Street, Porter Street, Cottage Street, 3 sheets dated April 2019.
All in favor? All right, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, our first item is 179 and 181 Amory Street in Roxbury, a pedestrian easement on a petition by Marbury Terrace Inc.
Good morning. My name is Pat Forbes. I'm with QPD LLC, which is a real estate advisory company. Community Servings and Marbury Terrace are the client that we are advising. Marbury Terrace and its affiliated corporation, Community Servings, who are both nonprofits, are located in Jamaica Plain and are undertaking an expansion of their building in order to expand their production kitchen. For those of you who aren't familiar with Community Servings, they began in 1989 serving medically tailored meals to people with a variety of critical ailments. Currently, they serve 23 communities in the greater Boston area, and this year will serve 675,000 meals to their client patients. They've been located in Jamaica Plain since 2006, and right now have just completed a 17,400 square foot addition to their existing facility that allowed them to move all of their administrative employees into this building and expand the production kitchen, which we hope will serve 1.5 million meals within the next 5 years. As part of this process and in the community process, it was requested that we expand the sidewalk to a 4-foot clear dimension on Amory Street in front of their parking lot. Community Servings and Marbury Terrace agreed, and we began the design. In meeting initially with DPW, it was hoped that we would be able to move the existing transformer on the sidewalk in order to alleviate the pinch point there between the light pole and the transformer. Unfortunately, as we got into looking at the logistics, there wasn't enough power feed slack to allow us to move the transformer, and moving the light pole would then have exacerbated the symmetry between the light poles going up and down the street. As a result, we went back to BPDA to look at some alternative designs, and that's what you have before you today. So what we're requesting is an easement, a pedestrian easement of approximately 151 square feet perpetually to the city of Boston that will allow us then to meet the requirement of the 4-foot clear dimension along their property line.
So we're just looking at that small bit between the curb cut on the Amory Street.
Correct. And I neglected to mention, I'm joined today by Zach Richards from Bowler Engineering and also Ed Hirschfield from Greenberg Trowick Council for Marbury Terrace as well, to respond to any questions.
The work is actually happening on the parcel.
The addition has been completed and they're occupying it. The site work is not complete. Site work has not been begun other than to begin the grading of the parking lot.
And the rink is behind this building?
I'm sorry?
Is the rink behind this building?
It is.
It is. And I should know, is the principal path of travel to the rink down Marbury Terrace? Or how do folks generally, down Amory and then down Marbury Terrace?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right, so this will presumably help folks who are getting to that recreational asset.
That's
as well
right.
as to your building. Other questions or comments on this? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, see you guys in 2 weeks. Does that work for a public hearing?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next item of new business is 232 Old Colony Avenue, Guston Street, Mitchell Street in South Boston. Pedestrian easement specific repairs on a set of joint petitions, 232 Old Colony LP and 218-220 Old Colony LLC.
All right, good morning, members of the Commissioner. I'm Kevin Dievler with Rhodey Architects. Oh, sorry. Am I waiting for something? All right. So we're here today to present the specific repairs plan for this project. The first thing I should point out that this building permit was granted. The project has been built and with a permit granted and approved by the BPDA. And there's some background to how some of these conditions were created currently, but we had sort of proceeded with the construction without rectifying the right-of-way easement. So again, I can provide any details on how we've gotten here to that point, but today's presentation material is really about focusing on the right-of-way easement that we're creating on our property. So we have a rendered site plan over here, which is really just more of a graphic view of the specific repairs plan. The project and permit that was granted had a groundwater system that was fully contained on the property. We have curb cuts that had been a curb cut in that location moved over to the Mitchell Street side. And due to some of the grading issues, and we have looked into tabling Guston as a solution to making the transition of the 5-foot right-of-way over and across Guston onto 218 sidewalk portion. So the process of sort of rectifying the situation has led to tabling, but that's been a process that we've worked through with Accessibility Commission, BPDA, and Public Works, or the PIC.
And so the principal specific repair that is the focus is the tabling of Guston essentially from Old Colony. And how far does it extend?
So on the
Beyond the
specific
intersection of
repairs,
Guston.
SR1, it shows it going essentially back to a point where there's existing catch basins back there. The property 218 is currently undergoing review under small project review with Article 80, the BPDA. So there have been active discussions with that property owner, and they are supportive on this petition.
And why was this, you mentioned this in the beginning, Kevin, but why was this not picked up in the initial specific repair plan? Why are we now coming back?
This is their first time here.
But with the initial project work, why was this not?
They've never come here.
Got it.
That's what we're here to do, and,
Okay.
and start the process, and albeit that too late in the process, but we're making changes to the construction to comply.
So there were already adjustments to the city street without coming to the PIC
Yeah, they
previously?
constructed the building, there was supposed to be a setback, the setback existed, but it was populated with railings, planters, boxes, et cetera. That setback should have been a pedestrian easement granted through the PIC. That never happened. At that point in time, we would have made all of the comments about how you can populate the streetscape. It went out there, it was constructed to not what we were expecting, and so now we're trying to unwind that and do something that will work.
Got it.
And this, the right-of-way easement has to do with the policy for widening Old Colony in the future for bike lanes.
Yeah, we're asking for 5 feet along the whole corridor to enhance pedestrian.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Actually, I just have a couple questions. I know we had spoke the other day, we contacted through email. And I know you had talked to the engineering, or someone from your department has talked to the engineering customer services department. So the only concern we have is the catch basin that is shown in the back of the building near Guston Street. So I know the other day when you had talked to the engineering customer services department, they suggested that you revise the existing site plan that we have.
Yes.
That's the concern that we have
Yep.
right now, is that I'm not sure if you're planning on doing that. That just has to be revised and
Yes.
approved by John Sullivan, the chief
Yes.
engineer.
We've
Okay.
spoken to the engineering department about that and that
Okay.
process, and we will extend the line that to the new catch basin location.
Okay.
And that's the only change to any underground plumbing.
Okay.
Or, you know,
Oh, so that's the
groundwater
plan.
system.
Okay, so you'll continue with that plan. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So just as of today, one of the issues that came up, we poured the sidewalks either early this morning or yesterday out at the site, closed the sidewalk and folks were walking in the roadway. That can't happen. Basically, that should have happened. A construction management plan that we developed gave you that temporary walkway outside of the thing so that you could reconstruct the sidewalks inside the work zone and then basically open it up. So what's going on? You need to check with your contractor what's going on out there right now. Because I've seen pictures, I have Officer Nee out there right now. I understand that OSHA paid you a visit yesterday on the site. Is that true?
I'm the architect, and there are representatives of the ownership team here in
Can
construction.
you answer that?
I have no report of OSHA.
Yeah, I just got a report as of this morning, some trench issue.
Trench?
Yep.
There was no trench there yesterday.
Yep. How about the sidewalks? What's going on there?
Sidewalks completed, they were poured, like a long time
Yep,
ago.
so where's the temporary walkway?
There's just no
No temporary walkway, it's all open right now.
The whole public,
It's all fenced off.
No, it's
at the back of the building,
back in the building maybe.
that public way, the back of the building is.
Got it right on pictures on Old Colony also. We can talk about this later, because this is,
What is your name, sir?
Mike Salmon,
And like, in your relation with the project?
I was like the project manager, general contractor.
So this particular petition, separate from some of the construction management challenges which seem to be occurring, is specifically for the tabling of Guston, essentially.
And the right of,
Got it. Right. Sorry, can you give other questions?
Oh, actually, I'm all set. Thank you, Chris.
Obviously, we received some testimony. I think we've got a number of folks who are here from the public who also wanted to comment on this, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Charlie Levin from Councilor Ed Flynn's office. I would like to go on record in opposition. Councilor Flynn has spoken with the butters at the West 9th Street Senior Apartments there, as well as many residents and members of the Andrew Square Civic Association. They've expressed concerns, primary concern about ADA compliance, accessibility for persons with disabilities, our seniors' vision, air, and pedestrian safety, and ignoring the rules at the outset of this process. As a result, we like to oppose. Thank you.
Hi, Chairman Osgood, members of the board. My name is Samantha Bennett. I'm speaking on behalf of City Councilor Michael Flaherty. The councilor echoes the remarks of District Councilor Flynn and feels strongly that the proponent should not be granted the pedestrian easement. The proponent already built a non-ADA compliant sidewalk at the building that directly abuts a senior housing property. And furthermore, the councilor feels strongly that the city should not be responsible for resolving issues created by the proponent. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Osgood, members of the board. My name is Russell McQuaid here on behalf of Senator Collins. I have a letter that he wrote that he would like me to read for you guys. Dear Chairman Osgood and esteemed members of the Commission, I write to you today in opposition to the petition of 232 Old Colony Avenue in the South Boston section of my district. The developer in question has shown time and time again a disregard for the community in which he does business and the city rules that govern it, consistently seeking to change the rules and zoning regulations to his own benefit while treating the neighbors with utter disrespect and contempt. The proponent of the petition before has stooped to an all-time low by building a luxury housing development next to public senior housing with sidewalks that are not ADA compliant. To call this a slap in the face to his elderly and disabled neighbors and the entire city of Boston would be an understatement. What does it say about the city of Boston if our elected and appointed officials change the rules for a private interest who shows such disregard for its most vulnerable residents? I would like to note that this isn't the first time the proponent has shown a lack of concern and respect for our city's most vulnerable. I recall early in my tenure as a state representative, the proponent buying triple deckers in my community and serving current tenants with no-fault evictions, throwing them out of the homes they lived in the name of his almighty profits. His behavior has been on full display with the fiasco he has created by Broadway Station and Port Norfolk. When the Boston Public Improvement Commission makes decisions to approve changes to the city's public and transportation sphere, it is in the interest of the public. Approving a petition for an easement on this site, taking away street scale on a two-way street, making it impossible for vehicles to navigate and even more dangerous for nearby residents would be in direct conflict with the Commission's mission to improve the public. So I ask that not only the Commission deny the application for an easement, but also that the Inspectional Services Department rescind their occupancy permits as they are in violation of federal law and standards, and not issue any further occupancy permits until the building has been taken back to where it was zoned to be, and the sidewalk is given back to the public so that neighbors and pedestrians have a safe way to pass, as is their right. No further exceptions should be made for the application of 232 Old Colony Avenue, for enough is enough. I appreciate your attention to this serious matter, and please do not hesitate to contact my office with any questions. Sincerely, Nick Collins, State Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the proponent have any response to these?
Sure. I'm not the owner again, I'm the architect representing the owner. Been the architect representing the design process and the approvals process throughout this entire process. It's about 4 years running. The plan that we are proposing today is to improve the sidewalk conditions that we sort of began with at the beginning of this process. The proposal today has fully compliant, accessible sidewalk ramps and transitions. The entire concept of tabling Guston is to improve the lives of the residents in the back, the elderly. Building, the concept of housing of this type was approved 3 years ago by BPDA board, and this proposal today, again, greatly improves the public landscape.
But if I understand correctly, you've been at this for 4 years. You built something that was non-compliant, and now you're trying to come back and actually fix that.
The concept of the ramps, et cetera, were existing at the time. So the issues about the right-of-way and enacting that policy is what we've been addressing over the last several months. So the notion of where these improvements and things were on the property, we have entered into this proposal for the easement to, yes.
And maybe I'm off on this. You've wrapped up construction. You built something which was non-compliant, which is why we are hearing today, I think, significant frustration and opposition to what your proposal is. Separate from the specifics of the proposal, just to wonder why we got to this place where you built something that was non-compliant. Is that?
Right, so they would have come here and found out what is compliant
Yeah.
and what we would like in the city right of way, and they didn't come through this process, and therefore we are in this situation now, and now we need to undo what they've done and put something back that would work for the city's right of way.
And you have, I mean, there are members of your team who are familiar with the PIC process, who would, and you've presumably done other work that you would know to come to the PIC for any of this sort of work. Is there a reason you chose not to come 3 years ago?
No, there's no reason why we didn't. Again, the notion of moving a curb cut to another side was something that we intended to do. Again, I sort of explained the notion of this right-of-way on Old Colony there was a misunderstanding about that, and all the elements that ended up in the right-of-way did create difficulties, and we're rectifying those situations. There was no intent to put back non-compliant ramp transitions.
So to be clear, for folks who testified that sort of in the new business process, there is no vote by the PIC. It is simply the chance for the proponent to be able to present to this group. If we actually make a decision to deny or support, that would actually come during the public hearing, which is a subsequent event. It seems like there's some things which we need to work through, including a review of this particular proposal, and to figure out again sort of why there was this breakdown in process where we are today, which we'll need to do over the next couple of weeks. Are there other questions or comments, or Sarah, if you?
So I think also to be clear to the people making comments that they are giving the city the easement, we are not giving them the easement.
Yes.
This is how we are getting our compliant sidewalk
sidewalks.
back,
Right.
not giving
Right.
them.
The plan which is before us is to basically address
Enhance
the actual
city
problems
right away.
that have been created, which is separate from the process challenges or the process mistakes and errors that happened already. Is that a fair? That there were errors, there were mistakes that were made, or there were steps that were skipped. You are now coming back to fix that.
No intent to skip these steps. Again, a misunderstanding about the right-of-way and that policy. The aspect, we did work with BPDA and address concerns to step the building face back. That was without sort of, our process of, complying with groundwater systems on our site. The geometry of this site is actually quite difficult as you could imagine, with Old Colony sort of slicing against the grain. So a lot of the grading was difficult, and but again, we should have been here months before. I'm not going to deny that.
Sarah, have you reviewed this, or?
Sarah Leung, the Commissions for Persons with Disabilities. We work with the proponent and met with them several times over the past month, along with the PIC team as well as representatives from the BPDA, and we recognize that this plan reflects all of our comments.
Thank you.
To the chair. Did you have to go to the Board of Appeal?
Excuse me?
I'm assuming you had to go to the Board of Appeal to get the permit to build.
Correct.
Okay. Now, where are you along in the project? Are you done? Do you have a CO, a temp CO?
There is a temp CO, I believe, probably just to, well, I'm not sure where.
Core and shell?
10 CO issued, yeah.
Core and shell, or is it to move in?
Sorry?
Core and shell, or is it to move in?
It's moved in, yeah.
Okay, you occupied?
Yes.
Okay.
2% percentage, not all.
And percentage of the building? About how many units?
Say 40%.
40%. Parking?
Yes.
Okay, see you before you leave, okay? See me before you leave, okay?
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? So, again, I think there's some work we'll want to do over the next 2 weeks, both to understand the process, reinforce the process, review the plans. 2 weeks is enough time. We can loop back to you, loop back to the folks before we actually have an official public hearing on this.
Okay.
All right, other comments from the public? Amy or Todd? Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next item of new business is 28 West Broadway, South Boston, the Sidewalk Cafe license on a petition by Fox and Knife LLC.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, attorney for the applicant and proponent. To my right is Karen Akunowitz from Fox and the Knife LLC at 28 West Broadway. To my left is Lisa Chow from VHB, who's the civil engineer and can walk through the plans in one moment. By just a little bit of background, Karen, again, is the owner-operator of a new restaurant, Fox and the Knife, at 28 West Broadway in South Boston. She's a recent James Beard Award winner for Best Chef of the Northeast of last year. She was executive chef at Myers and Chang before that. Very well experienced, and this is her.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
This is part of the concept of opening her first restaurant at 28 West Broadway. You may know this is the former site of the Maiden restaurant. It's also right next door to Warden Hall, directly across from the Broadway MBTA station. The space itself is about 1,500 square feet on the first floor, 1,500 square feet in the basement where she has storage, as well as bathrooms, prep kitchen space, and office space. And what we're here before the commission today for is she'd like to add a small seasonal outdoor patio on public property, directly in front of and adjacent to the site. It's approximately 160 square feet and would hold 14 seats. It would help provide an additional amenity to our customers. Obviously, al fresco dining is a big component of an Italian restaurant. This is provides modern Italian food is the menu and the concept at the restaurant. So she's looking to give her customers the ability, eventually when it gets warmer out, not today, but eventually over the summer to have the ability to have outdoor seating. I will note two things: that Warden Hall, which is directly next door, does also have an outdoor seasonal outdoor patio on public property, so this would be similar. Finally, I would like to note that we did have a robust community process when she went for the liquor license for this restaurant. She is open. She's been open for a few months now to great reviews from the neighborhood. We met with the West Broadway Neighborhood Association during that time. This was on the docket. They were aware that we were going to be doing this, and they were fully supportive of adding the outdoor patio. With that, I'll let Lisa go quickly over any more specifics for the commission, and then, of course, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Lisa?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Chow with VHB. As Nick mentioned, we are requesting the approval of a sidewalk cafe for the Fox and the Knife restaurant at 28 West Broadway Street. Again, the sidewalk cafe square footage is approximately 160 square feet for 14 patrons. The width of the existing sidewalk is approximately 14.8 feet, and the width of the proposed cafe is 7.4 feet. It would be separated with a barrier, and at the time, right now we're thinking of a post that's anchored to a steel plate that would be bolted to the existing concrete sidewalk. A pedestrian level of service analysis was completed. Before the sidewalk is deployed, it's a level of service A, and once this cafe is deployed, it will remain a level of service of A. As Nick mentioned, Warden Hall has a similar cafe, and this proposed cafe is in line with that.
And this is literally physically in line, but roughly the same amount of...
Exactly, it's right in line.
Great. And somewhat similar design? That's right. Somewhat similar design. Great. Yep.
My staff engineers have looked at the level of service analysis to find that acceptable level A. That's great.
Thank you.
Small, how big is the lip essentially between the tabletop and the?
We asked for it to have a back, so
Yeah.
that nothing would escape.
And like how high have you? I couldn't quite see. Oh no, sorry, like the actual the lip. Exactly right.
We'll build a custom piece that goes up, so I think it's somewhere, I think it's 5 inches.
Okay.
But we could certainly change that.
I just want to make sure it is exactly so things don't fall over onto the.
Leave it back.
Thank you. Good. Correct. Other questions or comments on this? Mayor Todd? Members of the public? Great. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Great.
We can't just take care of it now, Mr. Commissioner? We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next and final item of new business is 1 Summer Street, Boston proper, a granted location on a petition by Cambridge Network Solutions.
Good morning.
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 Hi, I'm Shelley Cullen, and I'm representing Cambridge Network Solutions, and Jeff Harrington.
My name is Jeff Harrington. I am with Cambridge Network Solutions.
And then Polly is with us too from First Light. So Cambridge Network Solutions wanted to do this build from 1 Summer Street down to about Devonshire. And they went through the lead company process, sent notification to all the potential participants, and we received 2 interested parties, Zayo and First Light. So because there was interest, we added an additional city shadow conduit. So the proposal might be a little different from your plans. We have 3 regular conduit and then 2 for city shadow. So everything else is in order. Just looking for your questions.
And I realize I should know this, but obviously there's a lot of things that are probably in this corridor. I see there's other telecom companies you've listed on your plans. There was no other capacity on Summer Street.
Correct.
Right, hence all the participants.
Surefire.
Right, exactly. The only indicator that we have, right? Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's definitely a busy area.
And the method of construction that you're proposing?
Conventional trench.
Conventional trench.
Yes. And what is this going to be feeding? So this is essentially feeding off the level 3 system, that joint trench system that goes through. That's what 1611 is, or that's what Devonshire is. There's an existing level 3 manhole. This will feed the Markley building, which is a data center. I think the problem in the past was that capacity wasn't realized, or how big Markley or its importance in a fiber optic network would be. Right, so but that's what we're trying to do. So the goal is hopefully with the additional conduit now. I mean, I'm just baffled that over the last 2 years, the amount of conduit that's gone into that street for feeding that building, there's nothing spared.
Exactly.
It's boggling. Seriously, I mean, I've issued permits for 4 or 5 vendors. I definitely, there has definitely been some, what I've seen is some expansions out of the building to pick up different conduits and try to overpull different cables, but to get all the way back to the level 3 system has been the challenge. So some people, inclusive of ourselves, we had some leased fibers we try to expand with little trenches to get to different points, but what we're really running into is there's a big capacity of fiber in that level 3 system with 99 plus or minus ducts, and probably like 15, and most of them are all occupied, and or they won't give them up because of they're like CenturyLink's only spare for their process. So our hope is by over designing it now, no one should ever come to this board again, because there should be plenty of city shadow.
We have that.
Well, I mean, there'll be plenty of city shadow, is what I mean.
Have you notified the bid? Have you talked to the Downtown Crossing bid?
Talk to who?
The Downtown Crossing bid.
No.
Okay, it would just be as part of just the overall construction process. This picks up in part of the district. I think probably extends just outside of it, but it would just be good from a notification standpoint. In addition to butters, like we would typically do. Millennium.
Todd or Amy, can you get me that
Absolutely,
information?
yes.
Yes.
Other questions or comments on this?
Yeah, actually, just have one question. So then I have the plan here signed by Boston Water and Sewer in June. So then these conduit numbers, so these are different than what was signed?
You know, we actually only dropped one.
Okay,
So we had it at,
6.
we had it at 5
okay,
plus 2, plus
Okay.
1 for City Shadow. We knocked it down to 3 and added one of those to the City Shadow.
okay. Yeah, we'll have to just let our office know that that had changed.
Okay.
Yeah, I just may have some additional questions.
It's actually one less, though.
Right.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I still have to let them know. That's all.
All right.
All right.
And then the original plan that went to Boston Water and Sewer had another segment on it. We separated that segment out, and we'll do that separately.
Okay.
So
Is
this
that the
is
one
just like
there?
the first 3 pages.
Okay.
The Summer Street segment.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks so much. We do have an additional member of the public who wanted to testify on a previous item. Amy, there's no reason why we can't. Great, terrific. Hold on one. So I believe this is in relation to the second item of new business, 232 Old Colony, Gusson Street, Mitchell Street, a pedestrian easement and specific repair plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for taking me out of turn here at the end. I know my legislative aide gave you and read our letter. Just to, in person, share with you the sentiments of the community, and particularly in my experience with this developer, I believe this requires extreme action by the commission, quite frankly. To have plans, this isn't a new, business, this isn't a new developer, that knew clearly what their obligations are. It's federal law for ADA compliance, which is bad enough anywhere, but to be across the street from and be a terrible neighbor during the construction period to dozens, if not 100, elderly, disabled, senior citizens is just unacceptable. And to have a petition in before you that asks for further relief, further benefit of the doubt. This is an entity that comes in this building on a regular basis asking for changes in the zoning and changes, asking body politics to create value that goes right into his pocket. And for this commission, in its mission, Public Improvements Commission, there's nothing that's going to improve the public's interest by accepting this application, basically to take away part of the street, which will force this department or the transportation department to turn that street into a one-way. And that should be a determination that you make on the merits, not off of whether we should make special accommodations for a developer. Quite frankly, both this commission and the ISD should deny it and request that that building be brought back. In no other planet do we see this as, in no other world or parallel universe can we see this as fair. Not only is it unfair, but the track record of disrespect for elderly in this community by this proponent is abhorrent, and it needs to be held accountable. And for this commission, I believe, to move forward with a proposal like this and accept it would be de facto support of that conduct. So I just ask respectfully, with your authority, that you deny this application, that ISD rescinds their occupancy permits and calls for them to reconstruct that wall that is abutting Middle Street at the intersection there of Old Colony Avenue, which for passersby, as this planning for the city is going to bring more and more people, this needs to be clear that we're not going to accept this conduct. There are in other parts of the city asking for this and that. I mean, there's all sorts of special treatment that they've received already and that they're continuing to ask for, and it's got to stop. This couldn't be more glaring of reasons why. There is no interest of this proponent in being just fair to the public, in spite of his profits. So I think that extreme action needs to be taken here, given the extreme level of disrespect and disregard for both our law, the ordinances here in the city of Boston, and in respect for their neighbors. That just is, we're going to require the city to change our transportation network there to accommodate. And I know it's gonna be expensive, but those are the breaks. When you break the law, when you break covenant, which is what this did, you gotta pay for it. We're a nation of laws, and that's what separates us. So if we're gonna continue the special treatment, special accommodations to create value, ultimately, which is cash value, for a private interest like that, I don't know what we're in this business for. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you, and I ask that you take that, with respect into your consideration. Thank you.
Senator, thank you so much. Again, we will have the next public hearing on this on May 23rd in this chamber at 10 o'clock. I think a couple of things I noticed the proponent is back in the room. Clearly, there have been concerns raised about how you communicate with abutters and about whether this is a repeated pattern with other projects. Both of those would be valuable to be able to hear from you on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other public comment? Okay. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.